Rehana Hashmi, thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't we start off with a little bit about you? Your story is very much interwoven in the history of Pakistan.
Yes.
And so why don't we start there and talk a little bit about your childhood and what kind of role models you had as a child?
Thank you. Like I start with my childhood. I don't remember my first 5 years, but after that, I was, I think, in grade 3 or grade 4. It was 67 when there was the first martial law in Pakistan. And Ayub Khan was martial administrator at that time. And my father was leading protests, and he was going to prison, jails, off and on. And I was the one, I was second in my siblings. At that time, I was only I was 7 or 8 when my mother was asking me to go and take care of my father's store. He lost his job because of these all protests. And I was the one who was going to store to look after that because we have to feed hungry mouths. So then when the store had to be open early morning when the kids were going to school. And when the kids were going to school, and I was hiding myself behind that shelf, this counter where the money was to put, because I didn't want it to my friend to see me that I'm not going to school and I am running this store. So the next, when my father was coming back and a teacher was asking me why you were not school, I was telling I was sick. And my students, no, she was not sick. And she was running her father's store and they were all laughing. So that was where the others, my class fellows were playing with Barbies, playing with dolls. I haven't had that chance because I was the one who was looking after very often to look after that store.
So you had a lot of responsibilities very early on in life, but because your father was politically engaged and
Yes.
was bearing the brunt of the regime at that time.
Yes, and that was a very small town in province of Baluchistan. Audience will see this intro about where Pakistan is. Pakistan is bordering Iran, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, China, and India on the larger. So I was born in a small town of Mastung, which is bordering Baluchistan, bordering Irani Baluchistan. So I was running, but I learned a lot also. I was a good financial manager. Yeah. So I was counting money. So I was good financial manager at the age of 7, 8. So that was hard times. At that time, the political movement was going on. And because of that, my father had to leave that province. And we left to other province, which is bordering Afghanistan. So we came to that city, Dera Ismail Khan. And my father left politics, but he sowed that seed in me. But when we came back, because when he was going to prison, I was the one who was taking care of all home. But when he came out and we shifted, and he wanted me to be at home, not to go out. But that was already maybe my mother saw that leadership in me, and I was the one who was going out. And all of a sudden, when we changed the city, and he was saying to stay home, that was very hard for me. So I was trying to do my activism in school. Mm-hmm. So standing for rights of the students and challenging teachers when they were punishing, corporal punishment. So I was the one doing my activism in school.
Yeah. I'm thinking about your life and how it was interwoven with these different moments in Pakistani history. You were 13 when Bhutto is made prime minister.
Yes.
You were 17 when General Zia al-Haq takes power. And you were 19 when you led your first very significant march against Bhutto's death sentence. How do you think these different shifts in in politics have affected the way that you've understood human rights and the way that you have supported and defended human rights?
At that time, I was not aware of what I'm doing, whether it's a human rights or it's a rights or something. It was something like I was thinking it's not just. First at my home, when my mother was like a child producing machine. She was having like every day, every year almost having a baby girl, and we are 8 sisters. And my mother was always blamed bringing daughters, and our house was really tagged as a girls' home, and it is considered very bad if you don't have any boy at home. So I saw that inequalities at my home, and I saw my mother suffering, and at the same time my mother as a victim, and on the same time my mother as a leader also. She was the one, all that she was taking on herself, but she was helping other women also, battered women, domestic violence women. So they were taking refuge in our house. We had a big house. When, like these early Bhutto's regime, like 73 when he became prime minister, at that time, I was not very active. We knew that, but my father was not for. He was for democracy, but not for Bhutto. But I see him as a leader. But whenever he was speaking on the UN assemblies and everything, I was really at that time there was no television. It was only radio at that time in our city. So when it was April, when he was sentenced to death. I don't know what happened. My childhood, that when I saw my father on the streets, all of a sudden I went to college and I gathered all my girls and I said we should do something. It's wrong. Why he has to be hanged? He is doing such a wonderful job and he is elected. So even I was politically not that much aware, but I knew that the people love him. People don't like dictatorship, people love him. So I gathered all girls. I was popular leader in my college. Yeah, so I
That's not surprising.
so I gathered these all students. It was almost 100 something, and we were, and this like our gatekeeper closed the door and big black gate with all these spikes on that needles, and that spike hurt. And but we were able to break that gate, and then we realized where to go, because we are protesting, but where to go? But there was a big office of commissioner. We went there to commissioner's office, but on the middle of that, police stopped us because it was martial law, nobody, and it was in the history of that city that many women, girls, in covered, uncovered, in burqas, in chadars, in all that, they are on the road. And police was not equipped because there was no women police at that time. So they pushed us back. So girls got afraid and we came home and with the bleeding chin. But after 4 hours, police was on our door. And they said, we have warrant to arrest her.
Because you were the leader.
I was the leader. And my mother was really, because in our culture, if police comes on your door, and it's a shame as already girls, that many girls in home. So my mother said, don't take her in police van, I'll bring her to office. And we went over there, and commissioner told my mother, and I was very strong. I said, I didn't do anything wrong. This Ziaul Haq is doing wrong. And he said, look at your daughter. She's not ashamed of that, what she has done. And she's repeating it. And my mother says she's child. And she said, she is not child. She has led these protests, which never happened in this city. And she has put my job at risk, and she has to. There are 2 choices. She has to go behind the bar, or she has to leave my territory, my city. So my mother said, okay, don't put her behind the bar. I will send her out. And in the wee hours of the next morning, like after a few hours, there was one of our distant uncle in his these wires truck. I was hiding in that truck and I left city. And my study was disturbed. I was not able to sit in the exam. So that was whole, and I left city, and I still remember my mother's pale face when she was begging to that officer, commissioner. But I felt bad for my mom, but I felt that what I'm doing good. I'm doing right. I don't know, nobody told me, no political party, nothing. It was from my inside. I started my activism from there.
So you spent, from what I understand, 2 years then
Yes.
with your uncle,
Yeah.
right? And in that time when you had, on some level you had won, and on
Yes.
some level you had lost,
Yes.
right? So how did you think about your intuition for justice at that moment?
At that time, these the 2 years was very, very hard. First, like my mother lost her mother at that time, and it was hard for me and to be close to family. But on the other side, I was thinking what to do next, and I was thinking like we have to stand up. And this, I think, it was the first in my city, and then all over Pakistan, these protests, and it started all over Pakistan. And that gave me really strength that I was not alone. I did something good. So that was where I thought I'm doing something good. And so that was like, on one hand, I was grieving, but on the other hand, I was thinking that I should not stop over here. I have to do more because we cannot sit home. Because I was thinking, what worse can come? Like they have already taken me to that level. So, but for, as you understand, it's not easy for a girl in Pakistani society and a family who are respected as a Sayyid family to the girl which is supposed to be at home, not to even go to school, and she is coming on road. So it was, on one hand, I lost personal, but on the other side, I gained strength also. By traveling 10 hours on that truck, it gave me strength also. And all these 10 hours, I was crying, I was thinking, and I was angry, and I was thinking that why should I? Then at one point I thought, why not to be, what is the life if I go back? It's better to be killed. And I was thinking this accident happened or something like that. But when I arrived in the city, Charsada, then I said, no, I have to move on with that.
So for decades, you have been embedded in and leading civil society in Pakistan.
Yes.
You have been doing that under the shifting rule.
Yes.
Can you say something about your reflections on this the shifting nature of politics that are extreme, from military rule to democratic rule and back and so on? How did civil society adapt to that? How did it change civil society, and how were you able to use those shifts to your advantage?
It's in the country like Pakistan, before 1979, when there was war broke out in Afghanistan, when the Russia and America, and where these mujahideens were brought in and all that. Actually, the whole Pakistan was suffered after actually 2001, after 9/11. But my city, which is bordering Afghanistan, we saw this Talibanization in '79, when there was the Saudi influence and when there was Mujahideen in Afghanistan. We started seeing these eruption of these elements. But 79, like I finished my college 83, and after that 83 to 92, 83 to 2000, that was the area where we saw growth of civil society organization, NGOs, many donors. But at that time, I didn't realize these all donors are coming because of Afghanistan's war and helping. But the country which I chose to be here was Canada. It was CEDA, Canadian CEDA at that time, which was really helping women's agenda. There was human rights, women, and environment at that time in 1992 when I started with the CEDA program. So they, where I am today, there is also contribution of taxpayers, Canadian taxpayers who paid to CEDA, and they invested on young leaders. Centers. So that was the area where all human rights, women rights, civil rights, political rights were really, and this was the area when Pakistan signed all UN conventions. Almost all UN convention we signed except one for refugees. Even we are hosting more than 3 million refugees, but Pakistan has not signed that. But all convention were signed. That was a very good area for women rights, but all over Pakistan, not in my area. Then since 2001, when there was another democratic government was toppled, and another quasi-military rule was there, and General Musharraf came in after 9/11. So that was the 9/11 that is really gave all this civil society. On the one side, media got more freedom. There was many media channels, but slowly that spaces for civil society, human rights organization was shrinking because these Mujahideen became Taliban. And most of people, they don't know all the primers and all that curriculum which was developed for Mujahideen, where it was developed. It was Nebraska University, which was paid by a US fund, which was against that. This was taxpayers' money, and we never heard about this primer which was taught. We were I was in the school, we were saying like you have A for apple, we had alif for anar. Anar is pomegranate. B for bakri, but it was all changed. Alif Allah. B, banduk, banduk means gun. Jim, jihad, jihad is fighting. So this all primers were developed over there, and our curriculum, even in regular schools, were changed. We studied in our schools, when I was student, we studied theology, not Islamiyat, not Islamic studies. This all curriculum was changed. It was Islamized. It's not only like Islamized because the minority is there in Pakistan. So our whole curriculum was changed, not only one religious subject, whole our subjects were changed to make it more like towards, to make it like Saudiized, not Islamized or Saudiized.
And this is the influence and the partnerships to certain political units within Pakistan and abroad.
Yes.
To essentially defer to them, right? And to create alliances, right? And to make sure that, sure that certain political gains are met.
Yes, because when this Mujahideen was created, because Afghanistan had an influence of Russia, and Russia was opening schools. Russia was having more universities. Russia was establishing more clinics for women, and that was used that it is against Islam, and that's why they said Russia is doing anything against it is against Islam. Education is girls' education. So then they left, US left, and these Mujahideen became Taliban, and Taliban's influence from Pakistan, and these Talibanization. Even I give you one example before 9/11. It was 1996, when I was working for CEDA-supported program, and there was a small grants. So I always try to give grants for the girls' education or something which can help women and girls. So we were going to one northern area, it's in Swat, and there was a town called Mata. We went over there, and all of a sudden my colleague who was supposed to go on the field trip with my boss, he said, I'm sick and I cannot go. Without realizing, I said, we have given time to community, we have to go. And I was 8 months pregnant. So I said, but there was a steep climbing on the rocks also to go to that village. I said, no, but we have committed, we will go. We went over there. As we entered, there was a big crowd of all bearded men with guns, and they were sitting all that. And all of a sudden, they asked me, next time when you are coming, you have to wear burqa. And my boss, who was sitting next to me, he just pinched me. He had it. So like, how I dealt with that situation, I said, I have no problem wearing burqa, but tell me which color of burqa you want me to wear, black or white? So they all laughed. Why? I said, I saw your all flags, they are wearing 2 colors, black or white. So tell me which color of burqa you want me to. They all laughed, and I unarmed them. And I started then talking about all this education. They said, why you want to this bridge? We want that to be built like a small channel. I didn't tell them that the bridge is made because girls cannot go to school. School is on the other side of the stream. So I said, this bridge will help you to take your eggs, hens, and things like that, the marketing. But the agenda behind that was to help girls. Then after the meeting, they said, please talk to our women also. Then my boss thought that they are taking her inside and she's not going to come back. But I went and I talked to women. And at the same night, they captured airport of Swat, the same group. Captured, but they said, we are letting you go. And they gave me protection to cross their area. And my husband at that time, there was no mobile, and they were worried that she went to that, and there is now eruption, and they are capturing all area. But it is how you deal the situation when it comes to that. If I would said, no, I don't want to wear, I would have gone at that moment. So that is how you really see emotions and disarm. You can't plan ahead what would be the situation.
So as you saw the Pakistan being increasingly Talibanized,
Yes.
How did you respond in terms of your programming and your interactions with women? Did that change, or did that stay the same?
It changed quite a lot after 9/11, and before that, as I said, since 79, it was changing. But after 9/11, it was very abrupt because Pakistan was supporting and Taliban, and Osama bin Laden was also in Pakistan, and these Taliban, they think, and these fundamentalists think that women place is not to come to the offices or go to schools, and like even schools was really bombed. Mostly these clinics where the women were going were bombed. So we had to strategize how not to put big names or banners, this is school, or this is like a clinic for women, it is maternity home or something like that. So we had to really take out all these banners and not to really meet very obviously what we were used to go. And there was, when I was working for Aga Khan Foundation, there were women and men were sitting together to have a meeting. Then we had to do meetings separately for women too. And so this was all, it was a major shift. Even on one hand, Taliban was there. On the other hand, we lost our major supporter, like Canadian CEDA was for women's rights. But all of a sudden, this all shift over here in Canada with the political. It's not about this the democratic governments, or sometimes democratic governments also are not really supporting human rights and women's rights, and which we have seen. Like when there was your Harper government, Canadian CEDA program was shifted towards women's rights to from aid to trade. So that was really a big backward shift for women's rights. In Pakistan, one, there was Talibanization. Secondly, there was increasing intolerance. Third, there was shrinking spaces of civil society. On the top of that, like some supporter countries like Canadian government and Norwegian government, other governments were not really helping the way they used to help. They used to promote, they used to give us like funding, and it started backwards till so up till now. It started after 2001, and now in 19 years, if you see, it's totally been changed. Pakistan face, if you can see, we will show some comparison in the text, how it was when we were going to school in my age, and now how my daughter goes to school, how it looks like. It is all covered, it's all like that. So you can see there is a major shift. We were quite liberal country, so all of a sudden we became very conservative, Islamic, but even not Islamic. Even Islam gives rights to women for education, but I don't know what kind of religion we are following. So that where the schools are bombed, Malala is attacked, where this after nobody knows about this, how it has really backward shift after Osama bin Laden's killing.
Can you say a little bit more? Because, I mean, what you're describing here is kind of the worst of all scenarios brought together. You have not just a shift in the government in Pakistan that is now thinking about certain allies, right, and how to persuade those allies into a good relationship and to maintain a good relationship. But you've also lost a partner when it comes to women's and children's health and education in Canada, when we had a change and shift in the government here in Canada.
Yes.
Tell me how the death of Osama bin Laden played into this scenario now.
When Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan, and you can mostly now, this for a young generation, Google is the best like a source to verify things. You can verify that on Google. Osama bin Laden, how he was traced. U.S. government knew that there is something fishy going on in that compound. There is some one from the big one of Taliban is staying. What they did to confirm it, Osama's sister is living in U.S. They had her DNA test. They had their DNA sample. What they did, that they mocked a polio campaign with the help of one doctor, Dr. Afridi, to go and do this polio drops to that compound and get these children's DNA and match it with the DNA. When they did when they did this mock that campaign of polio drops, they took swab of that to get DNA of these children, and they matched that, and it made it confirmed that Osama is living in that compound, and they targeted. And when Osama was killed in that, after that, all Taliban thought that the civil society organization played a role. But the Pakistani civil society or NGOs did not play any role. It was like one big international child rights organization. I don't want to take name. You can search it and see that. That organization was used and they left because they have that. But all civil society organization, human rights organization, their offices were really attacked by Taliban. Many polio workers were killed. And one, I can still remember, one mother and daughter, she was 38 and daughter was only 18 years old. And the 18 years old daughter had only 9 months baby, and both were killed, mother and daughter. So that was impact, and many human rights activists were killed or threatened or targeted, and it was openly. Whenever we were getting everyday call, you have to close it down, you have to and my organization, which was very small organization, Sisters Trust, we changed our office from one place to another. Then finally, and my daughter, when I started getting threats, and when Malala was targeted, and I was on the forefront, and they were, and when there was like a loss, and I was very openly criticized. I said, and when our governor was killed by his own bodyguard, and these were and they celebrated that when they killed him, because what he didn't do, like all human rights defender, we say these laws or attacking schools or killing women, it's not Islam. And these laws, which they say hudud laws or Sharia laws, which they say we have this blasphemy law, which is, we said these laws were made when there was British rule in 1905, when even Pakistan was not there. And when I said openly on media, these laws are not Islamic laws, these are not divine laws, either these are man-made laws. So I was blamed for the blasphemy. I started getting that. So it was on the same pretext our governor was killed.
Yeah. Speaking of being targeted, you lived in fear for some time.
Yeah.
Fear for yourself and your family. How did you manage that fear, and why did you keep going?
Okay. When I started getting these threats and on phone, and somebody was chasing my daughters when she was going to school, and I was in fear, but I was hopeful it will be over, but it was getting worse and worse. Till the time it came, I went to the police station. I called my friends, and I went to police station to say that these are text and these are the letters, these are envelopes I'm getting. When I was out of that police station, all over media, national and international, there was a breaking news that human rights activist Rehana Hashmi is targeted and threatened by Taliban. I didn't use name of anyone. I said, these are the numbers, these are the text, these are the cars which are following me, and these are. So that was media played. Instead of giving protection, I was exposed to more danger. And when this was broadcast, I called my very close friends. They didn't receive my call. I wanted to go to someone to give me some protection. I sent my daughter to her friends, and I wanted to go to, and whosoever I was calling, they were not receiving my calls. So I understand their position. They didn't want to put themselves in the way. And I was lucky, and meanwhile I found that this Women Peacemaker program, where I wanted to I was quite sure I will not be alive anymore because of these all threats. And the government, when I went to this police station, they said, it's hard for us to protect you, you have to protect yourself. They said, we can give you 2 policemen. I said, that guard killed governor, who was guard and who killed. So they said, we cannot guarantee. So I went there, and since 2012, 13, I was living out of suitcase, I sent my son to Canada. Daughter went afterwards. She managed to go to UK, and my husband went. So we were four persons family were in the different places. So it was 2017 finally when we came to Canada, and since then, at least we are living here. There is no like a fear of to be killed, but it's anxiety and uncertainty. And whenever I see, it is like fish without water, like a human rights defender when we don't do. And that's why when I was going and I was talking to different people, and luckily I found you, and I was convincing that activist human rights defender role. We want to work, we want to continue, but we want a place where we can take a refuge for few months, a semester or two, to come and being in a university or in an institute, it will help students and to reach out to a broader audience. Yeah.
It is our great honor to have you here at Carleton and to start an initiative that will bring other human rights defenders here. The students, the faculty, the society here embraces you and hopes that we can provide a place of refuge and calm so that you can continue your work. I'm wondering if you could just comment on and tell us your views on what an initiative like this might do for human rights defenders.
First of all, I would like to say that for me, human rights defender, all are very important work. They are like an umbrella which protect victims. When they become victim themselves, there is a very, very small window of opportunity for them. People think that they are well connected, they can go. My experience, my life, like me, there are many human rights defenders. But for me, women human rights defenders have really, really specific role to play, and it's very hard. I know it's hard for human rights defender, men or women, for both. But for women, it's really added responsibility to leave, to go. They have to take care of family. They have children. They cannot take a bag and leave. So for women human rights defender, even if it's hard for them they have to really fight against society, who are against them, system, and family also. Most of the time they don't own them, their work. They criticize them for their work. So then when they come under attack like me, they said, this was why you did it. Now this is, you are responsible for your own. So that's where these institutions' role become very important. This activist in residence, I would still feel like there should be more activists in residence program in all over Canada. Carleton, I'm thankful to Carleton who initiated, and you were the one who really motivated, and we launched this program at Carleton. This will provide not only provide refuge, or we will re-energize, we will come and we will have that calm place to think it over and go back with the positive energy, with more more equipped with the knowledge, and we will gain strength from the all academia around us, and we will give to students and academia our knowledge, what we have learned, because there are many speaker series, you invite people. Why not to have activist in residence and play that role? There is like a scholar at risk program which hosts scholars, but activist role, and especially women activist role, is more critical. And for me, this position is giving me a strength on one side and opportunity to play a role of a ladder. Always it's hard to have foundation, but now we have this foundation is almost, if there is a foundation, it's easy to build a building on it. So I am thinking Carleton has provided that foundation, and we want to have this program institutionalized so all other activists can come, not only to get benefit or get a shelter, to also contribute to the students, contribute to the faculty. So it is a gain-gain situation. It's not gain for human rights defenders, women human rights defenders, also for faculty and to students. And I request universities all around Canada to have this AIR program, Activist in Residence, so it will give fresh air to us and also to the students so they can get benefit out of this program.
Rehana Hashmi, I look forward to building it with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.